Respect the process, another Monday edition, and we are back in our normal spots.
Abnormal people in normal spots.
Exactly, and we will take it because got a lot to get into this week. We still have spring football going on.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things in spring football that I think that a lot of people are going to be watching is the offensive line in particular, because we have to have some new faces because obviously our center transferred. We lost both tackles. And the race at center was, from what I saw last week, we have a lot of people thought it might be Parker Brailsford who transferred from Washington. He followed DeBoer from Washington to Alabama. He was his starting center out there. But when they lined up last week, he actually was running with the twos. The first group from left to right would be Elijah Pritchett, Tyler Booker, redshirt junior James Brockermeyer, Jaden Roberts, and Wilkin Formby.
Right.
I think, at least for most people, it's nice to hear that there is a competition at center.
Yeah. And I don't know, because you have run through, you jogged my memory, thankfully.
No, it's okay.
But I'm going to guess part of what you see right there, even though you've brought in a center you feel very confident in, showing respect to the guys who are there.
That's a good point.
And that can help morale the locker room for the guys that have been there and stuck around. You come in and automatically the perception would be give.
Well, because the transfer portal opens shortly after spring ball's over.
Absolutely.
If you start plugging in these kids you bring from Washington straight in,
you're going to lose the
there's
kids
a good chance you're going to lose some of those guys.
You can indeed.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying that Brockermeyer won't win the job.
Yeah.
I'm simply saying to be respectful of the guys that are there helps your locker room. It would for me.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. My initial thing would be to say don't read too much into that, but instead what I would read is, hey, this is a good group of guys that are your coaching staff that are going to respect what they've inherited.
Well, they're evaluating talent as well.
They are. There's no doubt. And somebody's got to be one to begin with.
Right.
It doesn't mean by the next day it can't look different. But to be respectful of what's already there, to be mindful of where you are. They didn't inherit a mess.
Yeah.
There's some holes that need to be plugged, and this is a prime example of it at that position. But at the same time, you're not inheriting a problem of a program. You're simply following the best head coach of the modern era. So, yeah, I think it's a very good move regardless of how that all plays out.
Well, and I don't know the familiarity necessarily that Jalen has with the redshirt junior who has been taking the snaps at least this week. But you are installing a new offense. You have a quarterback that this is the first time you've worked with, as well as. Okay, go ahead.
No, I'm sitting here. I'm not disagreeing with one thing you're saying. I'm simply thinking in my head, blame whoever it was, and I don't know, but it's a new center, but you think it's going to be any less productive than it was a year ago? No. I mean, how many times did we see the ball on the deck?
Yeah.
Just on the quarterback center exchange.
I think we're finally getting what we wanted last year. Let's see what's behind.
Let's just get it in the hands of the guy. Again, that guy was great. He wouldn't be offered a scholarship. I think there's fault on both sides.
Yeah.
But it's not like you're going to mess up any cohesiveness because there wasn't a lot.
Yeah.
So, okay, whoever your guy is, you hope and trust that at least on the most important part, which is the initial exchange between center and quarterback, that part's going to be cleaned up. We'll figure out the rest later. Let's get that cleaned up first.
Yeah. It was just interesting. No. I was interested because this Parker Brailsford, the center that transferred from Washington, was one of the first particular players that I had heard from Washington who had come, who they were talking about as a prospective starter. But when they lined up last week, and again, as you said, somebody has to be C1, somebody has to be C2.
Right.
It was probably a nice political or a nice gesture to again say, okay, well then you know what? Then why don't we put Brockermeyer in at 1? He was here last year. He's got some familiarity with these guys, even though these are two new starting tackles.
Well, and also makes sense, too, that in the first snaps, if the quarterback transfer from Washington is running too, and I don't know that he is or not, but let's say he is, it makes sense that the guy that would have been at Washington last year at that position would be more comfortable with him. They'd be more comfortable having some familiarity with each other, and you keep Brockermeyer and Milroe, at least at the start, together. We'll see. Okay. I don't know if that plays out that way or not.
No, and, this is the second week of spring practice, so still we're getting some information out, but not a lot because so much of it is still install personnel trying to figure out.
Hi, I'm so-and-so. You line up here.
My name tag right
here.
here.
My name is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that they each have a roster that they are looking down. I know that they know their guys. They've been on campus for a month and a half, but still, in listening to some of Nick Sheridan's comments, he spoke to the media on Friday after practice. He still talks about getting to know the room, getting to know his guys. He's not talking a lot of X's and O's just right now. It is still that level of familiarity of seeing these guys not in the weight room, not in conditioning, but actually in shells out on the playing field.
Right. There is so much that people are dissecting, and I get it. It's natural. There's going to be comparisons. But there was video of Kane Womack shooting I don't know if it was Instagram, I don't know if it was video for a text message, direct message, whatever, but it was one that got out where I think it was going to a recruit. Okay. I don't remember, but there was a video that was out on social media that Kane Womack took while the position group behind him is going through stretches. It's basically all it was. It's not like they were, putting in game plan or anything like that. It was getting loose.
Are we opening it up to see what's going on behind?
Yeah, but he's got the camera and he's doing a selfie with the workout behind, and he's basically, hey man, whatever, getting our work in. Hope you're thinking about us. We're thinking about you. Blah blah. It wasn't a 15-second deal.
Yeah.
But people, he's making selfies
He's shooting
during
selfies during practice.
If you didn't know, and if we hadn't seen it before, and you took what Nick Saban would do during stretch and stride with those guys, and you had Kalen DeBoer doing it, people would go, oh, dear Lord, look what he's doing. Well, how many times did we see video of Nick Saban cutting up with players and messing with guys
when they do it.
During stretch and stride? Exactly. So it's simply using social media or your phone as part of a recruiting tool.
Yeah.
And we're getting access to some of that now that we never had before.
Right.
Doesn't mean, again, that the old way was wrong, the new way's better, or vice versa. It's just a little bit of insight into the way it's being done now.
Because we've never had that for the past 17 years. It has been.
No, but again, you know what? You have had some, or I wouldn't have been able to tell you the story I just told you about Saban.
Right.
In that comparison. So everything's just seen through a different filter now, in my opinion.
And I want to. This is a good point to jump into that because I don't think I was surprised, but I was interested to see the article that came out with Chris Lowe last week, where he was talking more about the week leading into Nick Saban announcing that he was retiring, and I was listening to Pat McAfee. I've read a couple different articles, and people really breaking it down because Nick Saban does not release any information without it being calculated. He knows the outcome that he is going with which he is saying something and how it's going to be and how it's going to be read and inferred. And then you have Chip Kelly, who says the reason he took the step back from UCLA was because he didn't want to be a CEO anymore. He wanted to be a coach. We are sliding into. I'm not saying college football is sliding into an area that is right now. We don't know where it's going. When the guys were at the Malmore building, the TNR guys were at the Malmore building broadcasting. Greg Burns said that currently with what we've got, it is. What do you get when you say it's a model? It's an unsustainable model that we have going on right now.
Right.
How far away are we from having a true CEO for a football team and then letting coaches coach, almost the NFL?
You mean a general manager?
Yeah, like a general manager. Yeah, because having them put out the tweets and the messages and letting the coaches coach and letting that person handle the business end of college football.
Well, doesn't Kalen DeBoer have a GM?
He does have a GM.
That's what he calls it.
Yeah. And so there was a really long way to get into that.
No, it was great, and I'm glad you did that.
No.
It sets it up nice. In essence, Alabama had that under Nick Saban, and it's a guy that's still.
And he was the shield.
Ellis Ponder.
He shielded all of his coaches and all of his players. He took the heat for everyone else. I mean, he was
Saban did?
Yeah,
of course.
He was the one that if you had a problem, it went off of him. He did not ever let it get to his coordinators, his coaches, or his players. And that was part of that. He was
right.
the only line of defense.
But he had a guy that was basically his right hand, that was the liaison with the athletic department, that handled all of the minute details. Yeah. And Ellis Ponder filled that role. In essence, what the GM is now for Coach DeBoer. I think I may be wrong with that. When I visit with Ellis later, I may find out that, there's different. And Ellis is part of Coach DeBoer's staff. I don't know what the title is. I'm not exactly sure how that plays out.
But the title at Washington was
general manager. And the title, I think, at Alabama is general manager.
And he held that, if I'm not mistaken, at Michigan also. I think that's the title he has carried with him when he has gone to work at different programs.
So, and clearly he's good at it. Wouldn't be given the opportunity he is now. But however you phrase things, it's an important piece of the puzzle. This is another conversation for a far lengthier platform than even the one we have. But you got to figure out what the NCAA is going to be, or what the governing body for college football is going to be at the highest level. The thing we are seeing, and it's what happened with the Big Ten SEC summit that took place, however you want to phrase that.
The Big
Power
Two.
Two. Yeah. They are no longer going to be dictated to by the same governing body that is trying to make Bama and Bucknell fit into the same model, because they don't. It's not fair to ask Bucknell to do what Bama does, and it's not fair to ask Bama to do what Bucknell does, and to fit under the same umbrella and to follow the same rules. The interests are different. The goals are different. And I've told this many times. I worked at Birmingham Southern. Maybe that's a better description in comparison. I worked at BSC. Even when BSC was at the Division I level, their goals and aspirations, desires were different from that of Alabama. You want to win, but what you're doing day to day, what you're doing with your budgets, what you're doing with personnel, are willing and able to do in terms of, they're different. Just because Birmingham Southern can't afford to do things that Alabama is able to do doesn't mean that Alabama in schools like that should be held back from competing at a level and doing things that they want to. Just because Birmingham Southern can't doesn't mean that Alabama and others should be held back from doing what they want to do. So you gotta quit trying to make both fit into the same area, the same structure. And you can say, well, they were D3. I'm talking about when BSC was D1. You can substitute Samford right now. Yeah. There's a lot of things that are different.
The smaller mid-majors.
And you can compete in certain sports. And heck, men's basketball right now.
Probably the most parity of what you're going to see in terms of a major
You're
sport.
Exactly right. That being said, day in and day out, are they still trying to do the same things the same way? No. Different goals, different aspirations. That's why with the SEC and the Big Ten at the forefront, whoever those schools are really need to create their own deal, at least for football and for men's basketball. And then you figure out everything else after that.
Well, because the way we're headed, and we could, again, it's a platform and a format much longer than what we've got to talk about whether they are, in fact, still student athletes, which I think we can almost, that title is becoming irrelevant. We almost need to have, I credit Ray Melick again for this, If you come, your major is football. You don't have to choose it.
Sure.
You can choose to pursue a degree, or you can choose football.
Right.
And if you choose football, we're going to take a class or two on maybe money management and some things like that.
Everybody ought to have to do that anyway.
And you know what? If you don't make it in the NFL, that's the risk you took when you came in and you declared that football was going to be,
sure.
And you're going to be not held to the same standard. That's because you're not going to probably be here in another year or two. But I was thinking about, as we get into the SEC tournament for basketball and then onto the NCAA tournament, we are not far away from players wanting to get bonuses for making the SEC, for being the SEC champion, or for making it to the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
When they hit employee status, that they're going to treat this like all the NFL and Major League Baseball when you get your bonuses for hitting certain marks.
I will go the old guy route on this, okay? There are bonuses already there, okay? You're getting an all-expense-paid trip to go take part in this.
Yeah.
You're getting meal money, plus you're getting meals comped. You're getting tons of new gear, which has great retail value as well. I mean, you're probably individually, not counting your actual game stuff, but your gear itself, you're probably getting $500 or more worth of gear. Then you're going to get a ring or a watch or whatever for being a participant, which is going to have anywhere from $200 to $500 or more value. And oh, by the way, the bowl committee, the bowl itself is going to give you a gift.
Do they still get travel money? Because remember, if you drive a certain distance, that you get mileage.
They give you mileage. I don't know for sure, but I think so.
I didn't know if they still did that. Okay.
I think you can. So there are plenty of opportunities to earn money or things of actual cash value.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you're saying, okay, yeah, but the schools are making millions. Yep. And how much of that is paying for all of these things we just talked about without any tax liability for the kids, being reinvested into the program? And I know at places like Alabama and others, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
For the training table, where they're living and eating and dining far better than they will for a good bit of their lives as adults, unless they get to a level and they can afford. But it's all done for you. You are getting compensated. On
top of what Greg Burns says, what the roughly $200,000 is what they invest per student athlete.
That doesn't surprise me. I don't know the amount, but that doesn't surprise me. He gave that number
back when the guys were over there in Tuscaloosa and he sat in. It was roughly, it may have been just shy of $200,000 is the investment. When you talk about charter flights, 5-star hotels, the meals, the trainers. And this I've found is a very polarizing issue, because those of us that are older see that side. The younger side is like, but they also deserve to get the money for it too.
Okay, you're right. But part of that is, with age comes wisdom, experience.
Yes, I know.
Also, the people that are the adults who are advocating and willing to help so much with these young students are getting some financial benefits off being the ones that represent and speak up for the younger ones. Now, look, I will also say, as you've heard me say here many times, if you don't do the right thing will be done for you the wrong way. And we're dealing with some of that now. We're dealing with some of that now because there wasn't as much given back. There wasn't as much invested in directly, perhaps, student athletes. So that's where this, and when you didn't hold the NCAA as an organization accountable sooner, you have one that blows up, melts down, and is totally worthless, in my opinion. That's what we've got now.
Well, and
that's how we've arrived where we have.
There was an article about a potential basketball tournament in Las Vegas where I think they're going to invite, they said 8 teams.
Alabama's one of them.
$1 million will be given to the NIL for each of those schools, and it can be done what they need to do with that money. If the players decide to split it up equally, if they decide to split it up based on, I don't know, value, equity, however they want to split it up, that's essentially prize money. That's essentially going to a tournament and winning prizes. And now they have those all over the country for different age groups, but now we're talking about college athletes going and playing for prize money, essentially.
You had me at Vegas.
I had you at Vegas, and you need to see if you can get in on a cut of that.
I don't care about the cut. Just take care of the flight and the expenses for me. The others take care of. In my luck, I know it'll fall during football, and I won't be able to go do it.
Yeah, but
still, I can hope.
Again, one of the other things, do you think that there are coaches out there that like the NIL? Are there coaches that are like, this is the greatest thing that has happened to college football? And not even college football. I mainly bring that up because that's where we see a lot of it. College basketball, college everything.
I don't know. Probably like it in theory.
That they can
Everybody
go and
just
recruit.
wants to see it. Everybody wants to see it managed the right way. I do think it's interesting.
I think on the front end, they like it when they can go to a recruit's house and say, we can now offer you X amount of dollars if you come to the University of Alabama.
Well, you've got the I don't know that they like that. And I haven't talked
Maybe
with
the
Kalen
recruits.
DeBoer.
I think the recruits like it. I should probably not say the college. But I don't know.
It depends on what your goal is. Do you want to make a little money now, or do you want to make a lot of money later? And that's part of what Nick Saban always talked about is the fact that you have the opportunity to earn money off of what you accomplish is fantastic. The problem is this was never supposed to be used as a recruiting inducement. It was never supposed to be come here and we'll pay you. It was supposed to be come here, develop, make a name for yourself, and you have the opportunity to go out and work deals to make money off of it. And
he said, though, he did not, but his model was not going to say no longer going to work. It was difficult finding athletes that were going to buy into his model versus what you just said.
Yeah, it is. Because everybody that they deal with wants a piece of it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there were those that were the hangers-on
before
that wanted to be around. Well, this goes back 100 years, basically, with recruiting, 50 years anyway, 75. When there were elements of recruiting that some of the stuff you're talking about now was completely illegal back in the day. But you had people hanging on wanting their share back then, and that's part of why schools got in trouble, because you get one that gets his feelings hurt and he squeals and rats out the nephew or the friend or whoever, and in turns ratting out the school, and they get in trouble. But what they're doing now is just doing that on the front end, which is still not what it was supposed to be in theory.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be that Jalen Milroe has 4th and 31 occur, and Jalen can now go out and get compensated for, and I'm just throwing something random on this. I have no, please don't take this as the fact that it's happening, because I'm thinking of the past.
We're just spitballing.
Well, I'm throwing stuff from the past. Jalen Milroe could go out and sign Daniel Moore Prince of 4th and 31, and I don't even know if Daniel's got one out. Danny probably does or will. But in the past, that was the type thing.
Yeah.
If it was a great moment, Daniel Moore was going to do a print. And now, at Christmas, Jalen Milroe could go out and sign them and make money off of something he had done.
Yeah.
Now, these kids are wanting money, and they're getting money from some schools before they ever have their 4th and 31 moment.
Yeah.
That's not what it was supposed to be.
No.
It was supposed to be after your 4th and 31 moment, or after your championship season, where that offensive lineman has got a chance.
Or your jersey sales had gone through the roof because you had a great season, and all of a sudden your jersey's selling out in the college bookstore.
But here's again, how many times was it? Let's say it was John Parker Wilson. Again, I'm throwing the first name. And John Parker Wilson's a quarterback at Alabama. He's popular. Everybody knows who John Parker Wilson is. NCAA didn't allow you to put Wilson on the back of the jersey.
Regardless if your name was Wilson.
But you knew that 14 jersey came out recently. You knew it was Bryce Young's number 9, but you couldn't put the name on the back. Okay? You didn't do it right, NCAA.
Yeah.
We all knew. Let them.
Yeah.
Big deal. They earned the opportunity. to have that done. So now you've opened up Pandora's box.
Yeah.
When all you had to do was let them make a little money off of the notoriety they had gained. Let the kids, let the offensive linemen, let anybody that wanted to sign up. To me, it's one of the best things is that you now can go through, I forgot whatever, I don't know that it's Yale, Alabama, whatever the entity is, you can go through, get your name on the back of your jersey. Brian Passing's done this. Bought his daughter a jersey that had Passink on the back, had his number 22. It was the Crimson Tide jersey that Alabama wore against Tennessee and I think against Florida maybe or whoever it was, where they wore that Crimson Tide throwback or new look, whatever it was. But you could go online, order it, it gets made for you. You get a cut as the player.
Yeah.
And the fan gets the player's jersey they actually wanted. Yes, you wanted Alabama, but you wanted that specific kid's jersey.
Okay.
And that's available for anybody. They can all do that. That's what it was supposed to be. Not, where's my car and my cash before I've ever set foot on campus.
No. And, the long term, the trickle down of all of this, in my opinion, is you will no longer have dynasties because teams are going to have a hard time sustaining success year to year to year because you're constantly bringing in new people. And also that mid-majors are going to struggle, particularly in terms of basketball, I believe, because you're not going to see the Creightons and the Gonzagas because they're going to be cherry-picked by talent that is noticed and then gets a bigger deal elsewhere.
Here's another one for you. All of this is supposed to be to your benefit as a kid. Guess what? You got real world coming up because you don't do what you're supposed. You don't deliver.
You're filing taxes now.
You're filing taxes, but oh, by the way, you had a rough year as a freshman. Guess what? Car's gone.
Yeah.
You're fired.
Good point.
You're fired. You're done.
Okay, if you had the chance, would you, when you're coming to play at Alabama, would you rather wear your number that you've always worn? Or would you rather wear a number that's never been used at Alabama before, and you would be the first one to wear that number?
What number are you going to do?
0.
403.
0 has never been
Zero's
used.
Never been
Deontay
used.
Lawson is changing from 32 to 0.
Yeah.
0 became a legal number in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
No one had claimed it.
Yeah.
So Deontay Lawson will be the first player to wear 0 at Alabama.
Which is what he wore, if I'm not mistaken, at A&M.
So my point is...
So he's getting both. He's getting his old number, but he's the first to ever.
Yeah. Would you rather wear a number that you are the only person that's ever worn that number, at least up to now? Or would you rather take your number that you wore in high school?
First of all, not that I was ever going to have that option on anything, but I wore 33 in high school because of Larry Bird.
I did 33.
Bird was in his prime, just getting started, and I got the option because we only went kindergarten through 8th grade. My 8th grade year at Central Park Christian, I was on the first basketball team. They let the seniors, the 8th graders, pick, and I picked 33, and I got to have it every year because Bird.
Oh, that's right. You were also the first class too. So
first graduating
there were no seniors
class.
ahead of you.
Yeah, we were the senior class.
Picking
they added
numbers.
a grade each year until we had a senior class.
Yeah.
So I got to wear 33 all the way through, and that was my guy. That's who I followed.
Now.
So but if I'd gone to college, first one to wear it or keep my 33, I don't know. It's a good question.
That was a good, because God bless you.
I can't comprehend being good enough for
No, but God bless
anyway.
you, because with the double numbers that they do now of the offense wearing one number 3 and the defense wearing one number 3.
Yeah.
You got to keep your head on a swivel for that.
Thankfully, you got the best spotter in the world in Butch Owens, and so I just trust him, and he gets it. But on special teams, especially like a block kick.
Yeah.
Golly, I did that on a pay-per-view first game of the year several years ago. I was doing play-by-play, and I made that. I gave Julio credit, and it was Chris Rogers, I think,
Damn,
that wore
Julio credit. God.
But it was number 8.
Okay.
And I think it was Chris Rogers that blocked it, especially in the spur of a moment, a scrum of people, body style the same. I see 8. I thought Julio, and I thought, no, oh, wait a minute, that's not Julio, it's Chris. The other part that confuses a lot of people now is I don't think they expect a running back who was a 5-star in high school and who is now a freshman to be on punt coverage or punt block, all that. And so it's a little bit different. It's a setting you're not expecting them to be in. So it's, as a play-by-play guy, it can be a tough one to identify.
Thank goodness you got the spotters.
Got the spotters.
I know.
Thank God for Butch.
Let's move over to basketball.
Please,
where there are no
about to
spotters
ask you.
and just you and Brian there. And, of course, our buddy Jim Dunaway pulling in. He pulled a lot of
oh, man. Did
he
we
wore
put
several
him to
hats
work?
on Saturday. Yeah.
Hey, that'll teach you to show up.
I know. I love it.
And take a phone call. We drafted him. Roger Hoover was away this past weekend. He'd been at the SEC women's tournament doing Bama, of course, the primary, but then he also does a lot of ESPN Plus stuff or SEC Plus stuff in Knoxville. And he wound up having a baseball series, a chance to do that. And so he had already talked to Jim about filling in on radio on Saturday. Turned out to be a doubleheader because it got rained out on Friday. Then he does, he shows up at basketball, and I said, how'd you like to be the Cook's Pest Control bench reporter? And then he really screwed up and was great at it. So now we're trying to draft him for the tournament. We'll figure out if we can get that worked out.
Well, before the tournament, we need to get healthy because we got a couple guys nicked up. Nothing major, but definitely stuff that you're keeping an eye on.
Rylan Griffin, I will say major in that you don't know yet when you're going to get him back. And that is the calf
and they need him
issue. They definitely need him because you need all hands on deck because there's no let's take our lumps and you lose now and you're done in whatever tournament you're in. You're at the point now, if you lose 2 straight, your season's over.
Yeah, but does it benefit them to go ahead? Because they had the double bye, which is nice. They don't play again until Friday now. You've got Georgia, Missouri in the first round. The winner of that plays Florida. And then the eventual winner of that will play Alabama. I think that the 8 o'clock game Friday night? The midnight special.
It's whenever everything finishes. Yeah. So I'm guessing we'll tip around 9 Central.
Yeah.
Is when that thing will get going. But, yeah, it'll be
they'll be using every hour of that day with training and everything else they need. Electric stem, biofreeze, you name it.
I have no idea where that stands as you and I visit on a Monday.
Yeah.
The fact that we're not playing until Thursday night. Friday night. Friday night. Sorry. Friday night is fantastic because you're exactly right. It buys you as much time as possible to get him ready. And if he can't go, it buys you even more time for that next day. Should you win and you're playing Kentucky. And that's a thing that Nate Oats has to measure. How healthy is he?
Yeah.
And is he healthy enough to play or is he healed? Because we don't want to play him re-aggravate it, and now you don't have him for the first round of the NCAA tournament. Because thankfully, Bama's not in a situation where they have to concern themselves with being an NCAA tournament team. That's a lock. They're going to be a good seed.
Well, that's why I was wondering if an early exit benefits them from the SEC conference.
I'm never of the belief that losing is of benefit to you.
Yeah.
I think you play it that way, and I think it can be beneficial if your team bounces back. But I think this team needs to win right now and play. I mean, they've dropped 2 of their last 3.
Yeah.
3 of their last 5.
They're playing a Florida team that they're very familiar with because they have played them twice in the past 3 weeks now.
Yeah,
so
and had to go to overtime to beat them in Tuscaloosa and got smacked down in Gainesville. So, you need all hands on deck. The biggest thing is you're going to have, God willing, Latrell Wrightsell available, who you didn't have in those games before. You're going to have, hopefully, Rylan back and able to go. But if not, you've got Wrightsell, whose value was absolutely proven.
Oh, my gosh.
In the ball game against Arkansas. Bama didn't win without him. He was tremendous on both ends of the floor. Because he had not played or practiced a lot, he was having to get IVs and it wasn't the concussion or head injury deal. It was dehydration, exhausted because he missed 2 weeks of training and conditioning.
Well, and plus by this point in the season, your body is used to playing 40 minutes. It is used to playing.
But when you hadn't been going at
exactly.
all for 2 weeks,
so that's
different.
And down the stretch of that game against Arkansas, at times Alabama was playing some of its best basketball on the edge of chaos. And they do that, which I know has to be an aggravation as you're sitting there like, y'all call it a very strong game, but they really did down that stretch, at least to get to overtime.
Yeah.
It was a track meet.
It was.
And a good one.
It was good. It was, track meets are better than train wrecks. And there were times in that game where it was about to be off the tracks, but did a great job of fighting back, not quitting, getting the shot from Reitzel that tied it, and then Arkansas just panicked and got a awful look, attacked the rim, and they didn't, thank goodness, and threw up something lousy. And once that happened, you just felt like, okay, here we go, and had to hang on to win it, but did. And
do you know one of the things
effort.
I saw that blew me away, but it made such a difference? They were rebounding.
Oh, absolutely.
They were crashing the boards, which so many times you watch these games and you're like, why is no one there? Especially when you know that their shots are not falling. Why aren't people crashing the boards to try and get there? I know you got to get back on defense, but we got a shot to get two here if you come in and get the missed shot.
And Bama did a much better job in that regard. And it takes all five, because when you say positionless basketball, that means you're not just relying on your bigs. I mean, Aaron Estrada's as good a rebounder as Alabama has, and he and Sears both, and Reitzel with what he is defensively, really important. So this is, I really thought a month ago, before Latrell got hurt, that we would talk about Alabama being the number one seed and the league champion again, because they were trending that way. Well, now you've had the injury hiccups, and hopefully that's all they are, because Latrell clearly is picking back up. He'll be fine, should be fine, and able to go again and be at full speed, full strength, full condition by then as well. And then hopefully you get Ryland back.
Well, this week,
something.
Nate Oats has the luxury of helping get him back in condition, helping get other players healthy, because he does not have to worry about the outcome of Friday night's game dictating what they're doing next week. So it is a luxury for those four teams that get the double bye and don't play till Friday.
And make no mistake, they want to win the SEC tournament. That means even more to them now, given the fact that they didn't win the regular season. They really want to win, but they're not going to risk success the next week.
Yeah.
First of all, I know Nate, he's not going to play a kid that's hurt anyway, but kids want to play. And sometimes you've got to step in and say, no, I know you want to, but you're not ready. They've got to walk that fine line, figure it out, and figure out what's best for this team going forward. Is it rolling the dice a little bit with him? Is he ready to go, or is it borderline? And if it's borderline, which side do you take on that? Playing him or resting him, getting him healthy completely, and hopefully ready to make a run when you get into the NCAA?
Do you think anybody outside of the four seeds, the four that have gotten the double byes, do you think anyone else from the SEC has a chance of making the NCAA tournament?
Oh, gosh, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Who has to make a run in order?
And I don't have it in front of me. All right, so the top four.
You got Auburn, Kentucky, Alabama, and
league champion Tennessee.
And Tennessee.
Those are in.
Four.
South Carolina's in. Florida's in.
You don't think South Carolina or Florida has to win a game this weekend?
They're in. I think and keep going on the list for me, because there's more.
Well, then, outside of that,
Mississippi State's got a great chance.
You think State or Ole Miss has a chance?
Both are in the conversation.
A&M, Georgia, Missouri.
A&M may have
Vanderbilt.
missed their.
Hey, you said go on, and I'm going to go ahead and just keep going.
A&M and
A&M, Georgia, Vanderbilt, Mizzou.
Georgia, I don't think does.
Because I'm just thinking anybody.
Vandy.
Hey, here's
you have to win at least one league
I'm thinking
game,
everybody has to start playing on Wednesday.
Yeah.
They're outliers.
You're right.
So anybody who's playing on Wednesday.
You're not going Wednesday to Sunday.
Thursday?
Thursday, it's not a real strong deal. But I think the SEC has got the 4 byes. They've got at least Florida, South Carolina, and I'd have to see the records. I don't have them in front of me, but I would say Mississippi State probably. And I don't know that Ole Miss is completely out of the mix. Arkansas is.
Yeah.
Arkansas, Mizzou, Vandy, no shot. Georgia doesn't. So now you're at 10 teams, and I think the league gets 7.
Okay.
I think the league will probably get 7.
That's fair. Was there any added like this to Musselman on Saturday after the OT win?
From who?
I don't know. Anybody? I know he is not a likable fellow, and
his fan base loves him.
That extends, yeah.
His fan base loves him.
You love him if he's yours.
I will say this. They never should have been in the position they were in. They're far too talented to be the mess that they were at times this year. I do give them credit for keeping it where they were at least.
They played a good game Saturday.
They played really well Saturday. They battled all the way to the finish, knowing that they really had nothing to play for except
to spoil.
the personal pride.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were very competitive in some other games too. But there's, that team should have been infinitely better than they were. Infinitely better than they were. And pride, I think, or lack thereof. Mm-hmm. You could say pride or lack thereof was a big part of their issue.
All right. Next time we hear you, well, do you have any baseball this week? I was going to say next time we hear you. But
no SEC Plus for me.
Okay.
With Alabama this week. I am basketball exclusive for
Coach
another
Oats.
couple of weeks. Got Coach Oats' radio show on a Monday night. And that'll be head to Nashville on Wednesday night. And I will do SEC Radio Network on Sirius XM, the early game on Thursday, the first game of the evening session.
Is that difficult to do since you were talking? I mean, you've talked about these teams and you've covered these teams, but neither one is your home team.
No, it's not tough because you've at least seen them. You've got time to prepare for that game, which I believe I'm doing Texas A&M.
Do you get local color or
Florida.
Is it a national play-by-play?
It's a national deal, and my color analyst will be one of the other SEC color analysts, not Brian, but another one, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Not that working with Brian's not fun, but it's fun to work with somebody else that you know but don't normally work with.
Yeah.
So we have fun with that. They have a great crew. It's a Learfield produced broadcast. So you have an engineer, just like we do with Tom, but you have somebody who does bench reports. You have somebody who is the studio host. You have somebody there courtside that's handling everything. We literally do our part 2 minutes before tip.
And then walk away?
It's tip. We're done at halftime. We come back and do the second half. Post-game, the game ends, and we're done.
Nice.
It's an easy lift.
That's nice.
It's fun. It's a little bit different, but yet there's enough familiarity that you feel like you can do the job well to do the play-by-play for it. So it is a lot of fun. You get a national audience that comes with Sirius XM, and it's a cool thing.
It's people like me driving around listening, so
you're appreciated.
I know. Okay, so we can hear you starting on Thursday and then again on Friday with the last game of the Friday evening session.
Correct.
Hopefully.
Late night with Chris Stewart. That's
late night with Chris Stewart.
Never mind.
And if you don't say him there, you can always catch him at chrisstewart.online with 2 S's there. chrisstewart.online. It only took me the better part of 9 months to get that to where
I appreciate it.
It's just rolling. Okay, but before we leave, because we need a restful yet hearty
Roll Tide.
Chris Stewart, I'm Kelly Hunter. We want to thank Scott Forrester back there who helps just.
He's awesome.
He cleans up everything that we leave and throw out. So, yes, most. So big thanks to Scott, as well as everybody here at Disrupt the Media. You can catch the next round anytime on demand, and they're just always usually here in studio. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week. Take care.